The stars outside the warship shimmered like cold diamonds, silent and distant. Inside the command deck of the Zira's Wrath, everything was silent too, except for the calm voice of its ruler. Commander Solari stood tall and still in the center of her ship. Her black armor glowed faintly under the red lights of the control panels. Her silver eyes scanned every screen with sharp focus. No one spoke unless spoken to. No one questioned her orders. She was a legend among the Ziran Empire, a leader who showed no fear, no mercy, and no weakness. "Status report," she said without turning her head. Her second officer, Zern, stood straight. "The human colony on planet Trian has been secured. No resistance remains." Solari nodded. "And the prisoner?" "They brought him aboard. He's waiting in the interrogation chamber." "Good. I want to see what this human is made of." In the dark metal room deep in the warship, a single man sat calmly at the table. No chains held him. No guards pointed weapons at him. But there was no need. No one escaped from the Zira's wrath. Elias Rain leaned back in his seat, arms crossed, behind his head. He whistled softly, as if he were sitting in a peaceful cafe and not the prison of a powerful alien empire. The door hissed open. Commander Solari walked in, her footsteps strong and silent. She stopped across the table and looked at him with eyes like cold steel. "You are the only one left alive on that colony," she said. "Why didn't you run?" Elias smiled. "I don't run from bullies." Solari's eyebrow lifted slightly. "You think I am a bully?" "I think you're used to people fearing you. I'm just not one of them." For a moment there was silence. Then she sat down slowly like a predator studying its prey. "You're clever, but cleverness won't save you here." "I'm not trying to be saved," Elias said. "I just thought we could have a nice conversation." Solari had broken leaders before, strong ones, proud ones. She had made them cry, beg, and reveal all they knew. But this human was different. He wasn't scared. He wasn't angry. He looked interested. "I don't think you understand your position," she said. "Oh, I understand it perfectly," Elias replied. "I'm a human. You're a Ziran commander. We're enemies. You probably think I'm weak, and I think your ship has several design flaws." That caught her attention. "Flaws?" Elias leaned forward. "For example, your engine coolant system runs too close to your weapons grid. One good overload and you'd lose power and fire control. Also, your crew morale is lower than you think. I saw it in the way they move. Tight, stressed, robotic. They don't trust you, they fear you, that's dangerous." Solari's fingers tapped the table slowly. "Are you a soldier?" "No." "Engineer. Strategist. And sometimes therapist." She stood. "You think you can lecture me on how to run my ship? I think you're brilliant. But even brilliant leaders can learn something new." Later that night, Solari sat alone in her chamber. She stared at the small monitor showing Elias in his cell. He wasn't pacing or trying to escape. He was lying on the bed, eyes closed, relaxed. Who was this man? Most prisoners screamed, fought, or cried. He smiled and gave advice. And worse, he made sense. Solari clenched her fists. She was in control. Always. She couldn't allow this human to get under her skin. She turned off the monitor. The next day, alarms blared through the ship. "Security breach," Zern shouted. "Cell block 7. Solari rushed to the screen. Elias's cell was open and empty. "Lock down all decks," she ordered. "Find him." But 20 minutes later, the doors to the command deck opened. Elias walked in, calm as ever. "Found the coffee machine," he said cheerfully. "Hope you don't mind." Weapons pointed at him from every direction. Solari stepped forward. "You escaped your cell? And came here?" "I wanted to finish our talk," Elias said. "Also, your security system is impressive, but too predictable." Solari looked him up and down. "You are either foolish or dangerous. Why not both?" He grinned. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She felt something strange, a flicker of amusement. But she pushed it down. "Take him back to his cell," she said, turning away. Elias shrugged. "Sure, but maybe let's talk later about those engine flaws. You've got a pirate ship tailing you." Solari froze. "What?" "Small, cloaked, vessel. I picked up its signal through your outer sensors. You didn't notice it because your scan cycle skips every 10th second. Zern checked the system. His eyes widened. "He's right, and there is a ship." Solari turned back slowly. Elias simply stood there, waiting. "Leave him," she said to the guards. She looked at Elias with new eyes. He wasn't just a prisoner. He was an asset, a puzzle, a mystery. And for the first time in years, she was intrigued. That night, Solari watched the stars again. Her ship was safe, thanks to him. She didn't like the feeling, being helped, needing help. But she couldn't ignore it either. She thought about his words, his smile, his calm voice. No fear, no anger, just honesty. He was unlike anyone she had met before, and somehow that made her want to see him again. The Zira's Wrath drifted smoothly through space, its engines humming with quiet power. The ship had avoided the pirate ambush, thanks to a prisoner who was not acting like a prisoner at all. Elias Rain, the only human aboard, was now walking freely in certain parts of the warship. Commander Solari had given the order herself, though she didn't say it out loud to anyone else. She had just updated the security access. Elias didn't brag or act proud. He simply kept offering help, fixing systems, advising officers, and somehow making the tense, quiet crew a little less stiff. Solari watched from the command deck, arms crossed behind her back, her face unreadable. "Report," she said. Zern gave a quick nod. "Weapons are fully charged. Engine systems running at 100%. Crew morale, improving." Solari looked at him. "Improving?" Zern hesitated. "Yes, Commander. Ever since the humans started helping the tech teams and speaking with some of the junior officers, they seem more relaxed, more confident." Solari frowned. "He is not a member of this crew." "No, Commander, but he is useful." Solari turned away. That word bothered her. Useful. Yes, Elias was useful, but he was also something more. A question she could not answer. In the lower deck, Elias crouched beside an open panel with two Ziran engineers. "Your power grid is impressive," he said, pointing to the glowing lines. "But you're leaking energy here. Just a little, but enough to cause problems later." One of the engineers blinked. We didn't see that." "You wouldn't," Elias said kindly. "It's a human trick. We've had to do a lot with very little." He smiled, and they smiled back. Solari watched from the shadows. She had come without telling anyone, just to see what Elias was doing. What she saw surprised her. Her crew, who usually showed fear or cold discipline, were laughing, talking, learning, and Elias wasn't forcing them. He was just being himself. Later, she called Elias to her private chamber. It was quiet, with only a soft blue light shining above the table. Solari stood near the window, arms behind her. "You've been busy," she said without turning. "Your ship has a lot of interesting problems," Elias said. "I like fixing things." She turned, slowly. "Why are you helping us?" Elias leaned against the wall. "Because I can, and because your people are worth helping." Solari narrowed her eyes. "Don't lie to me. You're a human. You should hate us." "I don't hate you," Elias said. "I think you're trying to be strong in a hard world. I understand that." She stepped closer. "You think I'm wrong." "I think you're alone," Elias said softly. "And maybe you don't have to be." Solari froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not in her entire career. Not since before she became a commander. "You talk like we're equals," she said. "We are. I don't care about ranks. I care about people." The next day, Solari received a message from High Command. They were watching her closely. They had seen her reports, her decisions, her treatment of the human. They warned her, do not allow weakness. Do not let an outsider influence your rule. She read the message 3 times, then deleted it. Her eyes were cold again. But deep inside, something stirred. On the training deck, Elias stood with a group of Zeran soldiers, showing them a new way to handle ground combat tactics. Sometimes it's not about strength, he said. It's about using your opponent's movement. Turn their power into your advantage. The soldiers practiced his method. One of them, a tall female named Sarah, laughed after disarming her partner using Elias's trick. Solari walked in, watching. From the side, Zern came to her. The crew trust him. I see that, she said. Some of them trust him more than they trust you. Solari looked at him sharply. Zern nodded. I'm just reporting facts, Commander. She nodded slowly. Thank you. But inside, the truth hurt more than she expected. That evening, she called Elias again. This time, she didn't stand tall. She sat down across from him. You are changing things on my ship, she said. And I don't know if that's good or bad. Elias looked at her calmly. You can tell me to stop. No, she said. That's not what I want. She looked into his eyes. You confuse me. I've ruled this ship for 7 years. I've never allowed anyone to question me, but you don't follow my rules. I don't need to, Elias said gently. You already know what's right. You just don't always trust yourself. She looked down, her voice quieter. I can't afford to be soft. Being kind isn't soft, Elias said. It takes strength to lead with heart. She didn't answer, but she didn't push him away either. That night she dreamed of her younger days, a time before the war, before the training, before she had to hide her emotions. She woke up with a strange feeling in her chest. Not fear, not anger. Something else. The next morning, an emergency alert shook the ship. A Zeran cruiser had arrived, one from High Command. They demanded entry. Solari met them in the hangar bay, dressed in full uniform. An old rival stepped out. Commander, Jarek, known for his loyalty to the Empire. You have allowed a human to walk free on your ship, he said coldly. That is not the Zeran way. He has earned my trust, Solari replied. Then you've lost your strength. Jarek tried to walk past her, but Solari stepped in front. My ship, my rules, he sneered. We'll see how long that lasts. Elias watched from the shadows. He didn't say anything, but his eyes followed Solari with quiet respect. He had seen something in her, something no one else dared to look for. And now, she was beginning to see it in herself. That evening, Solari stood outside Elias's room. She didn't knock. She didn't enter. She just stood there for a long time thinking. Then she walked away. But she would be back. Because deep inside, the great commander of the Zera's wrath was no longer sure where her strength truly came from. And Elias was no longer just a prisoner. The warship Zera's wrath moved silently through the dark space. Commander Solari stood on the bridge watching the stars. Her silver eyes looked hard and sharp, but inside, something was changing. Elias Rain had become more than a prisoner on the ship. He was walking freely among the crew, sharing ideas, helping the engineers, and slowly earning respect from the soldiers. Solari noticed the change in her crew. They smiled more. They worked better together. They talked to Elias openly. She hated to admit it, but Elias had a strange effect on everyone, even her. One afternoon, Solari found herself walking to the training deck. She wanted to see Elias teaching the soldiers how to fight differently. His methods were unlike the usual Zeran training. He taught them to think, to be flexible, and to use their enemy's strength against them. Solari watched quietly from the corner. The soldiers moved more smoothly. They laughed when they succeeded. Even Sarah, one of the toughest fighters, looked happy. Zern, Solari's second-in-command, came to her side. This human is changing the crew, Commander. I see. That, Solari replied. I don't know if it's good or bad. Zern smiled slightly. It's good. The crew is stronger. Solari looked away. Strength is not only about muscles and weapons. Then what is it? Zern asked softly. She hesitated. Trust. Loyalty. Zern nodded. And that's what Elias is building. Later that day, Solari stood in her private chamber, staring out at the stars. The silence was heavy. She felt tired. Not from battle or command, but from the battle inside herself. Her life had been one of rules and control. She never showed weakness. She never trusted anyone. That was how she survived, the Zeran Empire's harsh world. But now, Elias had entered her life like a quiet storm. His calm and kindness made her question everything. Suddenly, the door opened. Elias stepped in. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said quietly. Solari turned to face him. You're always welcome here. He smiled. Thank you. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Solari spoke. Why do you help us? Why not just escape and leave this ship? Elias looked at her with gentle eyes. Because I believe there is good here. In this crew, in you. She looked surprised. Me? You hide your pain behind a mask of strength, but I see it. Solari's face softened. You don't know me. I know what it means to be alone, Elias said. I want to help you if you let me. The next day, a problem happened on the ship. The engine suddenly lost power. The crew rushed to fix it, but they were confused. Solari called Elias. He moved quickly to the engine room where he worked with the engineers. His hands moved with skill and confidence. After some minutes, the power returned. Zern reported. The engine is stable again. Solari nodded. Good work. Elias smiled. Sometimes you just need to listen to the machine. Solari watched him closely. She was beginning to trust his skills more than she thought possible. Days passed. Solari found herself thinking about Elias more and more. She remembered moments from her past, the times when she had lost people she cared about, the loneliness that came with being a leader. One evening, Elias asked to speak with her privately. They met in the ship's observation room. The stars shone bright outside the glass. Elias spoke softly. You don't have to be alone, Solari. She looked at him, surprised that he used her name. Why do you say that? She asked. Because I see a leader who fears showing her true self. Who hides behind rules and orders. Solari looked away. That is my duty. To be strong. Strength comes in many forms, Elias said. Sometimes it comes from opening your heart. Solari's voice was quiet. That is weakness. Not to me, Elias replied. I think it takes courage. That night, Solari had a dream. She was a young girl again, running through a field of soft green grass. The sun was warm, and laughter filled the air. But suddenly, dark shadows fell over her. She stood alone, scared, and helpless. She woke up with a start. Her heart was heavy. For the first time in many years, she felt tears behind her eyes. She blinked them away. The next morning, a message came from the Zeran High Command. They ordered Solari to remove Elias from the ship immediately. They called him a threat and warned her not to allow his influence to weaken her crew. Solari read the message twice. Her jaw tightened. She crushed the message into a small ball and threw it into the trash. Her crew's safety mattered more than orders from far away. That afternoon, Commander Jarek arrived. He was a harsh man, loyal to the old ways of the Zeran Empire. He came with soldiers and spoke sharply to Solari. You have allowed a human to corrupt your crew, he said. Solari stood tall. He is not corruption. He is our strength. Jarek laughed bitterly. You have lost your mind. I have not lost control. Solari replied. This ship is under my command. Jarek stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. You will pay for this betrayal. Solari met his gaze without fear. If I do, I will do so standing with my crew. Elias watched the confrontation from the shadows. He could see the weight of command on Solari's shoulders. She was brave and strong, but she was also alone. After Jarek left, Solari sat quietly. Elias approached her. "You don't have to face this alone," he said gently. She looked at him, her walls slowly falling. "I don't know how to trust," she whispered. "I will teach you," Elias said with a smile. Days later, Solari invited Elias to join her in the strategy room. They worked together to prepare for possible attacks from the Empire. Elias offered ideas that surprised even the officers. During a break, Solari said quietly, "You have changed this ship more than you know." Elias smiled. "And you have changed too." She looked at him, a new feeling growing inside her. It was not fear or anger. It was hope. That night, Solari sat alone once again, but she was not lonely. She thought about Elias, the man who had tamed her like a kitten, not with force, but with kindness and trust. And for the first time, she wondered if she could be more than a commander. Maybe, just maybe, she could be a leader who trusted others and herself. The Zera's wrath drifted through the vast darkness of space, its engines steady and strong. Commander Solari stood in the command room, eyes fixed on the glowing star map. The galaxy was full of danger, but she was ready. Elias stood nearby, quietly studying the same map. His calm presence had become familiar to Solari. She still kept a careful distance, but she felt less alone now. The last few days had changed the ship. The crew moved with more energy and hope. Elias's ideas and kindness had begun to heal old wounds the war had caused, but not everyone was happy. Commander Jarek still prowled the ship like a shadow, waiting for a chance to strike. He believed Solari was weak and that Elias was a threat to the Zeran Empire. One day, Solari called a meeting of the senior officers. "We have information about a fleet moving toward us," she said. "They plan to capture this ship and return Elias to the High Command." The room fell silent. Zern frowned. "They are well armed. It will be a hard fight." Solari nodded. "Then we must be ready. We will use every strength we have. Technology, tactics, and teamwork." Elias spoke quietly. "And trust." Solari looked at him. Trust was still hard for her, but she was learning. That night, Solari walked the ship alone. The quiet halls felt different, full of life and hope. She stopped outside Elias's door. For a moment she thought about knocking, then she did. Elias opened the door, surprised to see her. "May I come in?" she asked. He stepped aside. Inside, the room was simple but clean. Stars shone softly through the window. Solari sat down on the edge of the bed. "I need your advice," she said. Elias smiled. "I'm here to help." She told him about the incoming fleet. "We're outnumbered," she said. "I don't know if we can win." Elias leaned forward. "Then we must be smarter." Solari felt a strange warmth. For the first time, she didn't have to carry the burden alone. The next days were filled with preparation. Elias worked with the engineers to improve the ship's shields and weapons. He taught the soldiers new tactics. Solari led the crew with strength and calm. Zern came to Solari. "The crew trusts you more than ever." Solari nodded. "Because of Elias." Zern smiled. "Because of you too, Commander." Then came the attack. The enemy fleet appeared on the sensors, dark shapes moving fast. The battle was fierce. Lasers flashed. Explosions rocked the ship. Solari stayed on the bridge, giving orders with sharp focus. Elias was in the engine room, helping keep power steady. The crew fought bravely. At a critical moment, the enemy ships tried to surround them. Solari gave a quick order. "Elias, now." Elias activated a new system he had helped create, a pulse that scrambled the enemy's sensors. The enemy ship stumbled. Solari seized the chance. "All weapons, fire!" The Zera's wrath struck back hard, slowly. The enemy fleet began to retreat. After the battle, the ship was quiet. Solari walked to Elias. "You saved us." Elias shrugged. "We saved each other." She looked at him with new respect. In the following days, something changed between them. Solari began to open her heart. She shared stories of her past, of loss and pain. Elias listened with kindness. She laughed sometimes, a sound rare on the ship. One evening, Solari said softly, "You've tamed me." Elias smiled. "Like a kitten?" She nodded. "Yes, and I don't want to be wild anymore." But danger was never far away. Commander Jarek still plotted. One night he tried to sabotage the ship. Solari caught him just in time. "Your time is over," she said. Jarek sneered. "We shall see." Solari ordered him locked away. As the ship sailed through the stars, Solari and Elias stood side by side. They were no longer commander and prisoner. They were partners. Together, they faced the future. The Zira's wrath floated silently near a small blue planet. The stars shone brightly, but inside the ship the air was thick with anticipation. Commander Solari stood on the bridge, looking out at the view. She felt calm, but also ready. The past weeks had changed everything: her crew, the ship, and herself. Beside her, Elias watched quietly. His presence was steady, a silent strength she had come to trust. The ship was no longer just a war machine. It was a home. The crew worked together, stronger than ever. Their laughter echoed through the halls, mixing with the steady hum of the engines. Solari thought back to when Elias first arrived. She had been angry, suspicious, and full of doubt. Now she smiled as she remembered how this human had slowly broken down her walls. An urgent message came through the comms. "Commander Solari, we have received an invitation from the planet below. They wish to speak with you and the human." Solari exchanged a glance with Elias. "This could be an important chance," she said. "Then let's accept it." Elias replied. The ship landed softly on the planet's surface. The air was fresh, and the sky was bright blue. They were met by the planet's leaders, an assembly of wise elders who had watched the galaxy's wars from afar. "We have heard of your courage and your new way," the chief elder said to Solari. "A leader who trusts in a human who brings peace. This is rare." Solari bowed slightly. "Thank you. We seek to build a better future." The elder smiled. "Then you are welcome here." During the meeting, Solari and Elias spoke about the future. They told stories of battles and friendship, of trust and hope. The elders listened carefully. They offered help, new technology, knowledge, and allies. Solari felt a warmth she had never known. Back on the ship, the crew gathered. They celebrated their victory, not just in battle, but in life. Elias looked at Solari. "You have changed this ship and your people," she smiled. "You taught me how to trust." He laughed softly. "I just showed you the way." But change was not always easy. Some of the crew still remembered the old ways. Fear and doubt lingered in their hearts. One night, Solari walked among her people. She listened to their worries. "We fear what we don't know," one soldier said. Solari nodded. "I understand. But fear cannot rule us." She spoke of courage, of unity, and of hope. Slowly, the crew began to believe. Days passed, and the ship prepared to leave the planet. The future was unknown but brighter. Solari stood with Elias on the observation deck. "Where will we go next?" she asked. "Wherever the stars take us," Elias said. "Together." She reached out and took his hand. For the first time, she did not feel alone. As the Zira's wrath lifted off, Solari looked at the stars. She was no longer just a commander, she was a leader with a heart, and Elias was no longer just a human prisoner. He was her friend, her partner, and something more. The ship sailed toward new adventures, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they had tamed the wildness in each other, and in doing so, they found a new strength one born from trust, kindness, and hope. The end.